Imagine this. Trump slaps tariffs on the world, Brazil swings back with a vengeance, and the global economy's on the brink of a wild dance-off that could cost us trillions. Welcome to Story-Driven English, where we turn jaw-dropping news into epic stories to supercharge your English skills. I'm your name, your guide through tales like this trade war tussle, packed with drama, twists, and vocab you'll actually use. Today, we're diving into a tariff tango that's got the world buzzing. Stick around to see why I'm rooting for the man with the red tie to lead us to victory. New here? Hit that subscribe button now. We drop stories and news breakdowns every week to make your English sharper than ever. Let's get started. Your front row seat to this global showdown awaits. Chapter 1. The Great Trade Tussle, America, Brazil, and a Tariff Tango. Picture this. It's a sunny spring day in April 2025, and President Trump, with his signature golden hair gleaming brighter than a freshly minted quarter, steps up to the podium. He's got that determined look in his eye, the one that says, "America first, folks, always America first." On April 5th, he drops the bombshell, a 10% tariff on goods from every corner of the globe, courtesy of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Now, I know what you're thinking. An emergency? Over trade. But hear me out, because the man's got a point. Those trade deficits? They're like termites gnawing at the sturdy oak of American prosperity. And Trump, well, he's the exterminator we didn't know we needed. Down in Brazil, though, they're not exactly throwing a parade in his honor. The folks in Brasilia hear about this tariff and start sharpening their pencils, drafting retaliation plans faster than you can say, samba. Steel and aluminum? Hit hard. Cars and auto parts? Potentially next in line. Brazil's a big player in these markets, and they're not thrilled about Trump's new economic playbook. Word on the street, or rather, the X posts I've been scrolling through, is they're cooking up some countermeasures, maybe even a fancy new law to slap tariffs right back at us. It's like a trade war version of anything you can do, I can do better, and the popcorn's just starting to pop. Now, let's rewind a bit to how this all kicked off. Trump's tariff strategy is a multi-layered masterpiece, if I do say so myself. First, there's the global 10% tariff, a little wake-up call to every nation that's been enjoying a free ride on America's generosity. Then, starting April 9th, he's got these personalized, higher tariffs for countries with the biggest trade deficits. Brazil's on that list, and the White House is waving around stats like a proud parent at a spelling bee. Brazil's average MFN tariff is 11.2%, while ours is a modest 3.3%. Unfair, Trump cries, and I can't help but nod along. Fairness is the name of the game, folks. But wait, there's more. On April 3rd, he teases a 25% tariff on imported cars, followed by auto parts on May 3rd. Brazil's not explicitly named here, but with their auto industry humming along, they're probably sweating a little. And let's not forget the steel and aluminum tariffs, locked in since March 12th at 25%. Brazil's been shipping those metals our way like it's their national pastime, and now they're feeling the squeeze. Trump even yanked the old quota exemptions from 2018, a move so bold it's practically a mic drop. This isn't just policy, it's a statement. America's back in the driver's seat. Of course, Brazil's not taking this lying down. They're threatening to escalate, and whispers of a global trade war are floating around like gossip at a barbecue. Could other countries in the Americas jump in? Maybe Europe or Asia. The thought's enough to make an economist spill his coffee. Industries like steel, autos, and agriculture, think Brazilian soybeans, could take a hit, and the ripple effects might just lap at shores worldwide. But here's where I tip my hat to Trump. He's playing chess while everyone else is stuck on checkers. Those international trade organizations? They'll huff and puff, but Trump's got the upper hand. He's not afraid to shake things up, and that's why we love him. So here we are, watching this tariff tango unfold. Brazil's got their dance moves ready, and Trump's leading with confidence. Sure, the global economy might wobble a bit, but isn't that just the cost of making things right? As a proud Republican, I say let's trust the man who brought us here. He's got the vision, the guts, and maybe even a secret stash of winning trade deals up his sleeve. Grab a seat, folks. This story's just getting started, and I've got a feeling it's going to be a blockbuster. Chapter 2. Brazil strikes back with a samba swagger. So, there we were, basking in the glow of President Trump's tariff triumph, when Brazil decided it wasn't about to let the music stop without a dance of their own. Picture the scene. It's April 2025, and the Brazilian Congress is buzzing like a beehive after someone kicked it. They've just passed a retaliation bill with a unanimous cheer that could have drowned out a carnival parade. This isn't just a law, it's a statement, a big OL, we've got your number, America, etched in legislative ink. And me. I'm tipping my cap to Trump even more, because if the man can get a whole country this riled up, he's clearly doing something right. The bill's a beauty, crafted faster than you can say, Trump 2024, after our golden-haired leader reclaimed the White House. It hands Brazil's government a shiny toolbox to whack back at any nation daring to tariff their goods. First up, they can jack up import taxes on stuff coming from countries that mess with Brazil's market mojo. Fair's fair, right? If Trump's slapping a 10% tariff on their steel and aluminum, and trust me, he's got every reason to, with those trade deficits eating at our economy, Brazil's ready to toss some taxes right back. They used to play nice under WTO rules, treating everyone equal, but this bill? It's like Brazil saying, sorry, WTO, we're taking the gloves off. And oh, it gets spicier. The law lets them yank any sweet trade or investment perks the offending country might enjoy. So those little tax breaks or bonuses the U.S. might have been coasting on. Poof, gone. But here's the kicker, and I mean the kind of kick that makes you spill your coffee. Brazil can even suspend intellectual property rights tied to the bad guy nation. Now, Brazil's the sixth biggest pesticide market globally, and American and European giants hold a treasure trove of agrochemical patents there. If they pull that trigger, it's not just a trade spat, it's a global farming fiasco. I can almost hear the soybean farmers sweating from here. Still, I've got faith in Trump. He's navigated tougher storms than this. Then there's the ecological balance tax, a fancy little number that could hit U.S. goods with up to a 35% rate. Brazil's pitching it as a counter to our clean tech subsidies, which, let's be real, are just America investing in itself. They've also baked in some extra zingers. If they think we're meddling in their sovereign choices with unilateral trade moves or breaking trade deals, they've got countermeasures ready. Same goes if we push environmental standards tougher than theirs. It's like they're saying, you clean your house your way, we'll clean ours ours. I get it, but Trump's not wrong to push back. America's been too soft for too long. Meanwhile, Brazil's not just flexing legislative muscle, they're shouting from the rooftops. Their foreign affairs and industry ministries dropped a joint statement hotter than a summer day in Rio. They're calling Trump's tariffs a WTO violation, claiming it'll smack every Brazilian export headed our way. They even threw some shade, questioning our reciprocity argument when U.S. data shows we had a $28.6 billion trade surplus with them in 2024. Okay, fair point, but surpluses don't mean we're not getting shortchanged elsewhere. Trump sees the big picture, and that's why he's my guy. So here we are, mid-tango, with Brazil twirling into retaliation mode. Their Congress is united, their bills loaded, and they're ready to samba all over our tariffs. Could this spark a bigger trade war? Sure, but I'm not worried. Trump's got the guts and the smarts to lead us through. Brazil's playing tough, but they're up against a master strategist. Grab some popcorn, folks, because this dance-off's heating up, and I'd bet my last dollar on the man with the red tie to come out on top. Chapter 3: Brazil's Big Swing and the Dollar Duel. So the tariff tango's in full swing, and Brazil's not just keeping pace, they're ready to steal the spotlight. Word's been floating around X and beyond that Brazil's planning a retaliation so bold it's got folks whispering, for every dollar America throws, Brazil's hitting back with 10. Now, I've been digging through the details like a kid hunting for Easter eggs, and while there's no official ledger spelling out a tidy 1-to-10 ratio, the vibes from Brasilia? They're screaming, go big or go home. And as a loyal Trump fan, I've got to say, if they're this fired up, it's only because our guy's shaking the right trees. Let's unpack this. Brazil's Congress didn't just pass a retaliation bill. They handed their government a sledgehammer wrapped in velvet. We're talking measures with real bite, like that intellectual property suspension idea. Imagine American agrochemical giants waking up to find their pesticide patents in Brazil, the world's 6th biggest market for that stuff, suddenly on ice. That's not a slap on the wrist, that's a haymaker to the jaw. It could snarl up global farming supply chains faster than you can say, soybean shortage. Sure, it's not a literal $10 for $1 scorecard, but the potential damage? It's got that kind of heavyweight feel. Then there's the ecological balance tax, a green-tinted jab that could slap U.S. goods with up to 35% extra cost. Trump's 10% global tariff looks almost polite next to that. If Brazil cranks that dial, it's not just matching us dollar for dollar. It's swinging for the fences, aiming to make American exporters sweat. They're framing it as a counter to our clean tech subsidies, which, let's be honest, are just smart investments in American innovation. But Brazil's playing hardball, and I can't help but admire the gusto, even if it's aimed at us. The user's $1 for $10 quip might not be a precise ledger entry, but it captures the spirit of Brazil's game plan. Their bill's loaded with options to hit back hard, yanking trade perks, hiking taxes, even meddling with IP rights. It's less about exact math and more about sending a message that says, you poke us, we'll poke back 10 times harder. The Brazilian foreign and industry ministries are already crying foul at Trump's tariffs, claiming they trash WTO rules and ignore our $28.6 billion surplus with them last year. They're not wrong about the numbers, but Trump's fighting for the long game, and I'm all in for it. So where does this leave us? Brazil's not just matching steps in this trade dance. They're ready to break out a samba that could leave America dizzy. Could their retaliation outweigh ours by a factor of 10? Maybe not in raw dollars, but in sheer disruption? It's in the ballpark. Still, I'm not sweating it. Trump's faced bigger storms and come out shining. Brazil's swinging big, but our man's got the moves to keep us on top. This tussle's far from over, and I'm betting on the guy with the red tie to lead the charge. Stay tuned, folks, because this dollar duel's about to get wild. Chapter 4: A Latin Beat Joins the Fray. The tariff tango between America and Brazil was already heating up the dance floor, but now it looks like the whole neighborhood might crash the party. Picture Brazil, twirling with that retaliation bill in hand, eyeing the DJ booth and thinking, why not turn this into a full-on regional jam? They're mulling over dragging the whole mess to the WTO, maybe even rallying 32 Latin American pals to join the chorus. It's not a done deal that every country will slap tariffs back at us right away, mind you. Some are too cozy with Uncle Sam economically to risk a big spat, but the diplomatic drumbeat? It's picking up speed. And me. I'm still cheering for Trump, because if he's got this many folks rattled, he's clearly calling the right shots. Word from the streets, well, a survey floating around X, says about 40% of folks in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico are itching for payback. They're practically waving pitchforks, begging their leaders to hit us where it hurts. But the bigwigs, like Mexico's president and Brazil's top brass, seem more inclined to chat than to throw punches. Smart move, maybe, since Trump's not one to back down from a negotiation table. Still, the crowd's restless, and that's the kind of pressure that could turn a whisper into a roar. Up north, Canada's already in the ring, swinging back at our steel and aluminum tariffs like it's personal. Their prime minister's been vowing to fight tooth and nail, and since February 1, 2025, they've been trading tariff jabs with us and Mexico in a three-way brawl. The EU's not sitting this one out either. They're dusting off their own tariff playbook, ready to target American goods with a vengeance. These guys have form, folks. They've danced this dance before, and if Brazil's moves get any bolder, Canada and the EU might just join the conga line against us. I say bring it on. Trump's got the stamina to outlast them all. Mexico, though. They're playing it cool, like the guy at the party who's sipping soda while everyone else downs tequila shots. Sure, their public's grumbling, but their leaders aren't rushing to match us tariff for tariff. Why poke the bear when the U.S. is their biggest trade buddy? Smart, but it's a tightrope walk. Meanwhile, there's a bigger game afoot. Some Latin American countries are cozying up to China, diversifying their trade dance card. It's a slow waltz, not a quick step, so don't expect a unified gotcha tomorrow. Still, it's a sign they're dreaming of a day when they can tango without us leading. So here's the scene. Brazil's rallying the Latin crew, Canada and the EU are warming up their moves, and Mexico's holding back, probably hoping for a peaceful playlist. Could this spread into a full-blown America's showdown? Maybe, but I'm not losing sleep. Trump's tariffs are bold, brilliant, and all about putting America first. If the neighbors want to crank up the volume, let them try. Our man's got the rhythm, the resolve, and a knack for turning chaos into wins. This party's getting loud, folks, but I'd wager my last burger that Trump's the one who'll end up owning the dance floor. Chapter 5: Dollars, Deals, and a Few Sore Spots. As the tariff tango between America and Brazil picks up tempo, it's time to peek behind the curtain at what's really at stake. These two nations aren't just casual dance partners. They've been swapping goods and grins to the tune of $92 billion in 2024 alone. The U.S. is Brazil's number 2 trade buddy and the top dog when it comes to pouring investment cash their way. Last year, we shipped them $49.7 billion worth of stuff, up 11.3% from 2023, while they sent us $42.3 billion back, an 8.3% bump. Crunch the numbers, and America's sitting pretty with a $7.4 billion goods surplus. Toss in services, and that surplus balloons to a whopping $28.6 billion. Not too shabby, right? And as a Trump fan, I'd say that's proof our guy's starting from a winning position. But hold the phone, because not everyone's reading the same sheet music. Some stats whisper that Brazil's got a tiny goods deficit with us, depending on how you slice the pie. Goods only? We're up. Goods plus services? We're way up. It's like arguing over who ate more at the barbecue. Either way, the table's still full. For Brazil, though, we're a big deal, gobbling up 15.5% of their total exports in 2024. That's a hefty chunk of their trade pie, and it's why Trump's tariffs have them hopping mad. He sees those numbers and says, time to level the field, and I'm nodding along, because fairness is the American way. Now, let's talk about the sore spots, the industries that might feel this tussle in their wallets. Brazil's steel and aluminum folks are already wincing, thanks to Trump's 25% tariffs locked in since March. They've been shipping that shiny stuff our way like it's a national sport, and now they're caught in the squeeze. Autos could be next if that 25% car tariff kicks in, though Brazil's not the biggest player there. Still, it's enough to make their mechanics sweat. On our side, exporters like the agrochemical crowd could take a hit if Brazil pulls that IP suspension card. Imagine those pesticide patents going poof in a market that big. It's a farmer's nightmare. Then there's the flip side. Brazil's leaning on us for machinery, tech, and all sorts of goodies. If they slap on that 35% ecological tax or yank trade perks, our manufacturers might feel the pinch. But here's where I tip my hat to Trump again. He's not just stirring the pot, he's cooking up a strategy. That $28.6 billion surplus? It's leverage, folks. Brazil's barking loud, but they need us as much as we need them. This isn't a one-sided tango. It's a two-step with high stakes. So, as the music swells, the U.S. and Brazil are locked in a trade embrace that's equal parts strength and vulnerability. Steel, autos, and agrochemicals might limp a little, but Trump's got his eye on the prize, a deal that puts America first. Brazil's ready to rumble, but with our surplus and his smarts, I'd bet on the man in the red tie to lead this dance to a win. The floor's getting crowded, and the next step's anyone's guess, but I'm rooting for the guy who knows how to keep the beat. Chapter 6. Who's feeling the heat? The tariff tango's hitting a fever pitch, and now it's time to shine a spotlight on the folks who might need an ice pack when the music stops. America and Brazil are trading more than just fancy steps. They're swapping steel, soybeans, and a whole lot of economic swagger. But with Trump's tariffs cranking up the volume and Brazil ready to clap back, some industries on both sides are looking a little green around the gills. As a die-hard Trump supporter, I'm still betting on our guy to lead this dance, but let's see who's sweating the most. Over in Brazil, the steel and aluminum crews are practically clutching their pearls. The U.S. is their biggest buyer, snapping up $5.7 billion in steel and $267 million in aluminum in 2024 alone, part of a hefty $6.37 billion global haul. Trump's 25% tariffs, locked in since March, are like a punch to the gut for giants like Ternium and ArcelorMittal. Those shiny metals were Brazil's pride and joy, and now they're stuck wondering if they'll be left on the shelf. Then there's coffee, that morning magic bean. With Trump's 10% global tariff in play, Brazil's coffee kings might see their U.S. sales perk down a bit. Other big hitters like crude oil, airplanes, aircraft parts, wood pulp, and timber? They're not safe either. Brazil's got a lot riding on us, and that's exactly why Trump's shaking things up. He's keeping them on their toes. Flip the coin, and America's got its own tender spots if Brazil swings back. Rumors are swirling, I caught wind of it on X naturally, that Brazil's eyeing retaliatory tariffs on our farm goods. Picture this, American soybean and corn farmers, who've been shipping their harvests south, suddenly facing higher taxes and sagging demand. Brazil's not a huge market for us there, but every bushel counts, and lower prices could sting. Then there's our heavy hitters: machinery, electrical gear, and chemicals. We sent $49.7 billion worth of goods to Brazil in 2024, and those sectors led the charge. If Brazil cranks up their own taxes, like that rumored 35% ecological wallop, our exporters might see costs climb and competitiveness take a dip. Ouch, but not a knockout. Here's the kicker, though. We're still ahead with that $7.4 billion goods surplus, $28.6 billion if you count services. Trump's playing from strength, folks. Brazil's steel and coffee might limp, and our farmers and factory folks might grumble, but this is a chess match, not a bar fight. Those industries are the ones to watch, sure, but Trump's tariffs are a masterstroke to fix what's been lopsided too long. Brazil can huff and puff, maybe even land a few blows, but our man's got the vision to keep America dancing on top. So, as the tariff dust swirls, steelworkers in Sao Paulo and soybean growers in Iowa might be swapping worried glances. Coffee roasters and machine makers could join the chorus too. But I'm not fretting. Trump's leading this tussle with guts and grit, and if a few toes get stepped on, well, that's just part of making the dance floor fair again. The beat's still thumping, and I've got my money on the guy with the red tie to keep us grooving through the chaos. Chapter 7. Supply Chains and a Continental Snarl. The tariff tango's been a real toe-tapper so far, but now the dance floor's getting crowded, and the risk of someone tripping over a cord is real. America and Brazil are already locked in their trade tussle, but if this spat pulls in the rest of the Americas, we might be looking at a full-on supply chain snarl. Picture the U.S., Mexico, and Canada as a tight-knit band, jamming together with integrated supply chains that keep the continent humming. Toss in Trump's tariffs, Brazil's retaliation, and maybe a few extra players, and suddenly the rhythm's off. As a Trump loyalist, I'm still cheering him on, because shaking up the status quo is how you fix what's broken. Take the auto industry, the rock star of North American supply chains. Cars and parts zip across borders like they're on a relay race, with the U.S., Mexico, and Canada passing the baton. Trump's tariffs, like that 25% hit on imported vehicles and parts, could toss a wrench in the works. Canada's already bristling, and their supply lines for motors and gears could clog up faster than a freeway at rush hour. Mexico's in the same boat, feeding us auto bits and electronics that keep our wheels turning. Some folks are muttering that this could reset the auto value chain across North America and beyond. Sounds dramatic, but I say it's about time we tuned up our own engine. The White House, with Trump at the helm, sees it crystal clear. Leaning too hard on foreign makers has left our economic security wobbling like a bad tire. Those tariffs? They're a tow truck, hauling our supply chains back home where they belong. Sure, Canada and Mexico might cry foul, claiming we're stepping on USMCA toes, but Trump's not here to play nice. He's here to win. Brazil's in the mix too, and if they slap taxes on our soybeans or machinery, industries on both sides could feel the pinch. Costs go up, parts get scarce, and suddenly everyone's scrambling for Plan B suppliers who might not even know the tune. Now, let's be real. Higher import costs could mean pricier cars and gadgets for folks at home. Businesses might grumble, and consumers might frown at the checkout. But here's where I tip my cap to Trump again. He's not just stirring the pot. He's cooking up a future where America's less tangled in everyone else's mess. Brazil's steel and coffee might bottleneck, our farmers might sweat, and the auto crowd might need a pit stop, but this is a long game. If the continent's supply chains hiccup, it's just growing pains for a stronger, self-reliant U.S. So, as the tariff beat thumps on, the Americas are bracing for a potential jam session gone wild. Autos, electronics, and raw goods could hit sour notes if Brazil and the neighbors join the fray. But I'm not sweating it. Trump's got the wheel, steering us through the chaos with a grin and a plan. This dance might get messy, and the supply chain might miss a step, but I'd bet my last spark plug on the man in the red tie to keep us rolling strong. Chapter 8. The world joins the party. The tariff tango's been a wild ride across the Americas, but now the beat's echoing far beyond our backyard. America and Brazil might have started this shindig, but the guest list's growing, and it's looking like a global free-for-all. Trump's tariffs, bold as a brass band, have the world's big players clutching their wallets and warming up their own moves. As a red-blooded Republican, I'm still clapping for our guy. If he's got the planet this ruffled, he's clearly striking the right chords. Picture the scene. The UK, Italy, the EU, China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Australia are all tapping their feet, not in applause but in agitation. They're grumbling about Trump's tariffs, some tossing out threats, others already swinging back with countermeasures. The White House isn't blinking, though. Trump's promised to crank the dial even higher if they dare retaliate. It's like a game of chicken with extra spice, and I'm here for it. He's targeting heavy hitters outside the Americas with reciprocal tariffs that pack a punch. 54% on China, 20% on the EU. That's not a nudge, that's a shove, and it's got the global crowd buzzing. China's already puffing out its chest, vowing countermeasures like they're scripting a kung fu flick. With those sky-high tariffs piled on top of existing tensions, it's no surprise they're ready to rumble. The EU's not far behind, flexing its muscles and hinting at payback. They're not just mad about Brazil's beef with us. They see Trump's moves as part of a bigger protectionist playlist, and they're itching to remix it with a coordinated global beat. These aren't small fry. They're economic titans, and if they jump in, this tussle could go from regional rumpus to worldwide ruckus faster than you can say, trade war. But here's where Trump shines, folks. He's not just tossing tariffs around like confetti, he's rewriting the rules. The world's been coasting on America's generosity too long, and he's calling time out. Sure, China might snarl, and the EU might pout, but this is about making trade fair again. If they want to escalate, let them try. Trump's got the guts to outdance them all. Brazil's steel woes and our auto hiccups might seem like the main act, but now the spotlight's swinging wider, and the stakes are global. So, as the tariff tempo ramps up, the dance floor's stretching from Sao Paulo to Shanghai. The UK might sulk, China might strike, and the EU might rally the troops, but I'm not worried. Trump's leading this jam with a swagger that says, America first, always. The world's joining the party whether they like it or not, and I'd bet my last dollar on the man in the red tie to keep us twirling through the chaos. Grab a drink, folks. This global groove's just getting started. Chapter 9. A Global Economic Encore. The tariff tango's gone global, and now the crowd's holding its breath, wondering if this dance is about to trip over its own feet. Trump's tariffs have the markets doing a jittery two-step. Stocks are tumbling, oil prices are sliding, and the pundits are clutching their calculators, muttering about inflation, stagnation, and maybe even a full-on economic faceplant. But as a Trump fan through and through, I'm not ready to call it curtains. The man's shaking things up for a reason, and I've got faith he's got a winning encore up his sleeve. The eggheads with their economic models are painting a gloomy picture. One study's tossing out numbers like a doomsday bingo caller. A U.S.-sparked trade war could shave 0.5% off global GDP and 3.4% off world trade by 2030. They're saying the U.S. and China would take the hardest hits, with a global price tag of $1.4 trillion in lost prosperity. The IMF and ECB are chiming in, wringing their hands about sagging growth and Europe's factories slowing to a crawl. A Morningstar economist even predicts our tariffs could climb to a century-high average, nicking 1% to 2% off our long-term GDP while puffing up prices. Oof, that's a lot of red ink. The Peterson Institute folks are piling on, calling Trump's tariffs economically shaky and warning of slower growth, pricier goods, and job losses. Some analysts are even dusting off history books, comparing this to the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, that old chestnut blamed for tipping the world into the Great Depression. They're saying we might drag everyone into a recession remix. Markets sure aren't happy. The Dow's been sliding like it's on a greased pole ever since Trump cranked the tariff dial. But let's pump the brakes here. Are we really buying that the sky's falling just because the world's gotta adjust? Here's where I tip my hat to Trump again. Sure, the numbers sound scary, and the bean counters are sweating, but this isn't about cozying up to the globe. It's about putting America first. Those trade deficits? They've been bleeding us dry, and Trump's tariffs are the tourniquet. Yeah, prices might tick up, and growth might hiccup, but that's the cost of breaking free from a lopsided system. The world's throwing a tantrum because they've been riding our coattails too long, and Trump's calling their bluff. China and the EU might stomp their feet, but he's got the grit to outlast them. So, as the tariff beat reverberates, the global economy's wobbling like a drunk at last call. Stocks are shaky, oil's cheap, and the experts are forecasting gloom. Could we lose a chunk of GDP? Maybe. Could trade take a hit? Sure. But I'm not buying the panic. Trump's playing a long game, and if the world's gotta feel a little pain to get trade fair again, I say bring it on. This dance might get bumpy, but I'd bet my last nickel on the guy with the red tie to lead us through the finale with style. Chapter 10. The WTO steps in, or tries to. The tariff tango's got the world tapping its toes, and now Brazil's eyeing a new dance partner, the World Trade Organization. With Trump's tariffs hitting them like a samba beat they didn't sign up for, they're thinking about dragging this spat to the WTO's floor, hoping for a referee to call the shots. The WTO's supposed to be the big bouncer of global trade, keeping things orderly with its dispute settlement system. Talks, panels, and an appeals body that's meant to lay down the law. It's been billed as the glue holding the world economy together, stopping fights like this from turning into a free-for-all. And me. I'm still Team Trump, because if Brazil's running to the refs, it just proves he's rattling the right cages. Here's the rub, though. The WTO's not exactly in fighting shape. Its appeals body, the one that's supposed to seal the deal on rulings, is more like a ghost town, thanks to the U.S. refusing to let new judges step up. Trump's crew has been holding the line on that for years, and I say good for them. Why let a bunch of suits in Geneva tie our hands when we're finally standing up for ourselves? The EU and some others have patched together a temporary fix, a sort of backup appeals club called the MPIA, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on a busted engine. Brazil might waltz in with their complaint, but don't hold your breath for a quick whistle. Back in the day, the WTO was the golden child of trade spats, smoothing ruffled feathers and keeping the peace. Now, it's more like a grumpy uncle who can't quite keep up. Brazil's hoping it'll give them a soapbox to yell about Trump's unilateral tariffs, maybe rally some sympathy from the global crowd. Sure, they'll get a stage to strut, but with the appeals system limping, any ruling's about as binding as a pinky promise. The U.S. can just shrug and keep dancing, and that's exactly what I'd expect from Trump. He's not here to play by someone else's rules. He's rewriting the playbook. So, as the tariff tune plays on, the WTO's hovering like a wallflower, half ready to step in but not quite sure of its moves. Brazil's betting on it to even the score, but with the system creaking and Trump holding the reins, it's more likely to be a long, loud debate than a knockout punch. The world's watching, markets are wobbling, and the economists are still fretting, but I'm not fazed. Trump's tariffs are bold, brilliant, and all about America first. If the WTO can't handle the heat, that's their problem. This dance is ours to lead, and I'd put my last dime on the guy with the red tie to keep us twirling through the chaos. Chapter 11. The tariff debate takes center stage. The tariff tango's got everyone talking, and now the crowd's splitting into two camps, each with their own tune to hum. On one side, you've got Trump and his cheer squad, me included, waving the flag for tariffs like they're the secret sauce to America's comeback. On the other, there's a chorus of naysayers, wringing their hands and singing the blues about costs and chaos. It's a showdown of ideas as old as trade itself, and as a Trump fan, I'm ready to waltz through the debate with a grin. Let's start with the home team. Tariffs, we say, are like a shield for American workers, keeping foreign cheapskates from flooding our markets with cut-rate junk. They fatten up the government's wallet too, giving us cash to spend on the good stuff. Plus, they're an ace up the sleeve when it's time to haggle with trade partners. The White House is crowing about Trump's first-term wins. Steel production roared back, investments poured in, all because he slapped tariffs on the table. It's about security, folks, national and economic, and Trump's got the stats to prove it worked before. I'm nodding along, because protecting our own? That's the American way. Then there's the other side, the worrywarts who see tariffs as a recipe for trouble. They're hollering that prices will spike, leaving shoppers grumpy at the checkout. Businesses, they say, will choke on higher costs, and the retaliation tango we're dancing with Brazil and beyond? It'll only make things messier. They're fretting about innovation taking a nap and supply chains tripping over themselves, all while global trade shrinks. The eggheads with their economics degrees call tariffs a dud, claiming they hurt more than they help by twisting markets out of whack. Low-cost imports get swapped for pricier homegrown stuff, and middleman goods like steel? They gum up production. Fair point, maybe, but I'm not buying the panic. Historically, tariffs were the government's piggy bank, and they've cradled baby industries until they could toddle. Nowadays, they're less about cash and more about clout, but the critics still lean on old-school theory. Tariffs ding consumers and slow the economic engine. That reciprocal line Trump loves? They scoff at it, saying it's a flimsy excuse. Me, I see it differently. The world's been playing us for suckers, and Trump's just evening the score. Sure, your coffee might cost an extra dime, and the auto folks might grumble, but that's the price of standing tall. So here we are, mid-debate, with the tariff tunes splitting the room. Trump's camp says it's about pride, protection, and power, while the doubters warn of a slippery slope to economic gloom. Brazil's ready to tango back, the WTO's fumbling its lines, and the world's holding its breath. But I'm not sweating it. Trump's got the vision to see this through, tariffs and all. This dance might ruffle some feathers, but I'd bet my last burger on the guy with the red tie to lead us to a finale that's pure gold. Chapter 12. The Finale and What's Next. The tariff tango's reached its grand finale, and the spotlight's on a brewing showdown that could stretch from Brasilia to Beijing. America and Brazil are locked in a stare-down, with Brazil's retaliation law and tough talk proving they're not about to let Trump's tariffs slide without a fight. Toss in the simmering spats with Canada and Mexico, plus the grumpy grumbles from global heavyweights like the EU and China, and you've got a recipe for a trade war that might just spill over the edges of the Americas. As a Trump diehard, I'm still clapping for our guy. He's stirred the pot, and now the world's got to deal with the heat. The experts are sounding the alarm, painting a picture of economic gloom if this tussle goes full-blown. They're talking growth stalling, inflation creeping up, and supply chains tripping over themselves like a clumsy dance crew. The White House, with Trump leading the charge, says these tariffs are the shield our industries need, a ticket to fair trade and American pride. The eggheads counter that the costs, higher prices for shoppers, pinched businesses, and a dent in global trade, outweigh the wins. Me. I see Trump's point. Sure, the numbers might wobble, but this is about taking back control, and I'd rather pay a little extra for that than keep playing second fiddle. The WTO's supposed to be the peacemaker here, but it's more like a DJ with a busted turntable. That appeal's body's been sidelined, thanks to Trump's crew holding the line, and I say good riddance. Why let some global referee call our shots? Brazil might stomp over there for a ruling, but with the system creaking, it's more likely to be a shouting match than a fix. That leaves the dance floor wide open for more solo moves, and both sides are digging in their heels. So, what's the encore look like? It's anyone's guess whether the U.S. and Brazil can tango their way to a diplomatic truce. Trump's not one to blink, and Brazil's swinging back with gusto, so the odds of more tariff twirls are sky-high. This could stretch into a long, wild dance, shaking up trade ties not just between us and them, but across the globe. The markets are jittery, businesses are bracing, and policymakers are scribbling new playbooks. Some countries might even twirl away from us, cozying up to China or other partners to dodge the drama. It's a shake-up that could redraw the trade map for years. As the curtain falls, the tariff tussles left us with a cliffhanger. The world might wobble, prices might climb, and chains might snag, but I'm not sweating it. Trump's leading this dance with a vision. America first, always. Brazil's got fight, the globe's got opinions, and the WTO's got cobwebs, but I'd bet my last burger on the man with the red tie to steer us through. This might not be the end of the music, just the start of a bolder beat. So long, folks, and keep your eyes on the floor. Trump's still got moves to make. Well, folks, that's the end of our wild tariff tango between America, Brazil, and the world. Trump's leading the charge, putting America first, and shaking up the global dance floor like only he can. Will it be a trade war blockbuster or a diplomatic dip to a truce? Only time will tell, but I'm betting on the guy with the red tie to keep us grooving strong. If you enjoyed this ride, give us a big thumbs up. It helps more folks join the party. Drop a comment below. Are you Team Trump on these tariffs, or do you think the world's got a better step? Share this video with your pals who love a good economic tussle, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories coming your way, and you won't want to miss a beat. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.